Effective real estate project management training is crucial for all project managers, PMP certified or not. Praizion Media offers real-world project management training, PMP exam training, CAPM training, leadership training, Microsoft project and communications training in Arizona, California, New York, Washington, D.C., Virginia, London, UK, Canada, and indeed, the world. Get PMP certified or learn the basics of project management. Praizion Media will train you or your team on site via the internet, CDs, DVDs, MP3s, or through our books and study guides. Our trainers are real-world project managers with experience in various industries, government, engineering, IT, aerospace, healthcare, and more. Visit www.praizion.com or call 480-545-2022 to learn how we can help you build invincible PMP certified project managers. Stop losing money on failed and unnecessary projects and get your project managers trained to be leaders and trailblazers. Visit www.praizion.com. That's PRAIZION.com or call now 480-545-2022. Praizion Media, real-world project management training solutions. And now, let's listen to Phil, the PMP Doctor.
Hello, how do you ace the PMP exam without knowing the passing score? How on earth are you going to do it? You've got no idea what the passing score is. You have not the slightest inkling as to the nasty questions you could face on that exam. So how do you do it? Well, I'm glad to tell you that there is a way you can. And in order to do it, there are 25 important steps. These steps I will share with you in this presentation. And it's up to you to do whatever you want to with these 25 steps. So, how to ace the PMP exam without knowing the passing score? Are you absolutely sure you want to know what I have to say? Well, first of all, you're going to have to get started. And getting started is very difficult for people that have got inertia. In fact, who doesn't have inertia? Whenever you are about to embark on a big thing in life, there's always that resistance to change or resistance to get up and go and do it. But it is your job to inspire yourself, to really get yourself into a frenzy in whatever you're trying to do in life. It might not even be the exam. It might be something else. But to get started, you are going to have to bring it. You're going to have to bring the energy. And hey, watch this one. You're going to have to stop depending on people to fire you up, to motivate you. Because guess what? You're going to run out of gas. And you don't want to run out of gas. So you need to be what? Intrinsically motivated from deep within, from passion within, deep within you. If you don't have that passion to succeed, that quest to get ahead in life, well, you could even pass the PMP exam and still be there tomorrow. So what I'm trying to tell you in essence is get started on it. Get fired up. Get motivated. Hey, it's another big thing that you can do in life. You passed a professional project management exam. People will give you kudos for that, won't they? It's a big thing. So get started on your application. And that's the first point. It's all about getting ready. Get started. Don't wait. Get started with your application form right away. In fact, after listening to this video, you need to get started. You need to jump on it and send your application to the PMI in the next 30 days. Is that fair enough? 30 days? Because at the end of 30 days, I've got plans for you. You are going for a 35 contact hour course. So if you don't know about the requirements to get certified, you need to get started. You need to read the PMP handbook. If you don't know where the PMP handbook can be found, just look below this video. You'll find a link to the PMP handbook. You need to read it, know the requirements. And one of the requirements is you need to have been for a 35-hour formal project management training. And you can get that from Praizion Media. So visit praizion.com to learn more. Step 3. Submit your application to the PMI. So after you get done with your 35-hour course, which is your final requirement, submit your application. Hey, some people are scared that they're going to be asked to pay. They're not going to ask you to pay at this stage, so you might as well get your application rolling along. The next thing you need to do as you submit your application is start studying in earnest. Study, study, study. But we're going to talk about that in part 2. After you get your application sent to the PMI, it will take about 5 days. They'll get back to you and tell you, oh, why don't you go ahead and pay? You are now confirmed as eligible to take the PMP exam. So go ahead, submit payment to the PMI. Quick note about payment. At the moment, it costs $555 if you are not a member. If you are a member, it costs $405. To be a member is $129. It makes sense to be a member because there are fantastic perks you get. You get the PM Network magazine. You get access to books247.com. It's phenomenal. Be a member and pay less and get more. The next thing you need to do is get ready. You might be audited. Now, very few people are audited. It's not 50% of the people. It's around about 10. So some people will be audited, some won't be. If you are one of the people who gets audited, it's not a big deal. After you read the handbook, or guess what? I've got a video on this. Check our channel and look for the video on what you need to do if you're audited. So get audited, pass the audit, and move on, but keep studying. The next thing you need to do is get confirmation of the audit from the PMI, obviously. And when you get confirmation back from the PMI, what do you need to do? Schedule your exam date. Don't wait. Don't say, all right, I've got a year. No, no, no. You need to schedule your exam date immediately. The next thing you need to begin doing is work towards your exam date. Now, it might look very minuscule. It might look like, oh, what does this have to do with me acing the exam without knowing the passing score? Well, it's all in these habits. Doing things in a timely fashion, moving from one point to the next. Now, I know exactly what I'm talking about. A student of ours passed the PMP exam yesterday. Now, he came for a conference in Anaheim in October 2011. In fact, he was one of the people who was less likely to take the exam because he was asking questions such as, what's it all about? What's this PMP thing all about? How do I get involved? How do I do it? And right there and then, he learnt firsthand how to do it. And he went for a 35 contact hour online course to get his 35 hours. And at the end of the day, he took the exam yesterday, passed it. That conference was about 6 hours for him. He didn't attend every session, so he needed 29 more contact hours. And if you are like that and you've got 17 contact hours and you need more, hey, take our online course. It will help you. It's affordable and it's a great way of prepping yourself for the exam. Long story short, this has a lot to do with your success. You need to do things in a timely fashion. So you need to begin to work towards your exam date. And that's the end of part 1. In part 2, I'll be telling you the secrets of studying. You don't want to miss it. Welcome back to part 2. How to ace the PMP exam without knowing the passing score. Study neck deep. In order to do well on the exam, you cannot afford to cut any corners. You cannot afford to say, well, I think they might come out with a formula or two, or they might come out with, more questions on risk management, or, I'm kind of going to skip network diagrams because I heard from my good old friend who took the exam last year that there weren't many network diagram questions. Doing that, apart from being foolish, is dangerous. Do you know why? The PMP exam is a very dynamic and unpredictable exam. No one can predict the type of questions you'll face on the exam. And one of the reasons people fail is because they bank on certain type of questions, or they bank on certain chapters in the PMBOK guide, and they go in front of the computer monitor and hit start, and it's absolute horror. They've got no idea, absolutely no idea of what the questions are. In fact, people sit in front of the computer monitor and they are absolutely clueless. So for that reason, don't play Russian roulette with your study. Study neck deep. Get right down into the middle of it. Understand the terminology. Know each definition in and out. You should be able to explain to a 10-year-old what any of those tools or techniques are. If you cannot break it down, you cannot break down the language in the PMBOK guide into very easy to understand terms. If you cannot do that, then I tell you, you've got issues. And you are at risk. Lots of the definitions in the PMBOK guide, I'm telling you, people in grade school, they can do that stuff. People in high school can do that stuff. They can cram. It's one thing to cram, but it's another thing to really, truly understand and be able to break it down such that a novice would come to an understanding of what that concept is. It's doable. I've done it. I've seen other people do it. I know it works. You see, project management is not as tough as we make it out to be lots of times. It's a very easy to understand subject. And if I had had someone to train me on it earlier in life, maybe even in my teens, I guarantee you I would have understood project management. It's easy to understand, so don't complicate it. Study neck deep. Let's go over to the next point. Point 10. Know what goes where and why. What am I talking about? You need to know where each input came from. For example, the project charter is an input to identify stakeholders. You need to know where the project charter came from. Sounds easy, right? Know where different things come from. Know where they go and know why. So let me talk about that in a little bit more detail. Know why each input is an input to wherever it goes. Why is the project charter an input to develop project management plan? Why is the project charter an input to identify stakeholders? Why is it an input to define scope? You need to know the answers to all of these questions, and you really need to know them well. Also, when it comes to outputs, know why an output is an output. It might sound very obvious, but you do need to know why an output is an output. And you do need to know where that output goes after it is created. You need to know this in great detail. You need to know all of the definitions. Also, when it comes to tools and techniques, you need to know why each tool or technique is used wherever it is used. You need to know the definitions, the concepts, the principles, and you need to know them cold. Know all your formulas, not just 1, 2, 3, or 4 of them, but all of them. Any formula that you come across as you study for the PMP exam, is fair game. So know your formulas in and out, every single one. Know all your organizational theories, Maslow's, McGregor's, Herzberg's, Victor Vroom, McClelland, all those guys, know those organizational theories. When it comes to enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets, hello, I'm sure there are people out there that know what I'm talking about. Might sound like Greek to some others who haven't started, but your EEFs and your OPAs can be broken down. Know the granular detail and know why each aspect is relevant as you study. Bear in mind, I'm not asking you to cram, but I'm asking you to understand and retain the information through habitual listening. You can get the Project Management Audio Digest from Praizion.com. You can also get the ITTO flashcards or the PMP exam flashcards, both the audio and the manual flashcards. Lots of ways to stay refreshed. Know all tools and techniques of quality. There are lots of them. There are tons of tools and techniques in quality. It's a very miserable area to look at. And for that reason, you're going to have to put lots of time into it to make it interesting for yourself. When you talk about the Ishikawa or the fishbone, you need to think about it with a little bit of excitement. Or when you think about control charts or the rule of 7 or an assignable cause, try to delight in those things because you're going to see them for a little bit of time as you prepare for the exam. So just get on the bandwagon, read, study, know the stuff, and be happy that you know it. In fact, you should be happy you're watching this video because I'm giving you some great tips here. So know all the tools and techniques of quality. There are lots of them. All those graphs, charts, histograms, Pareto charts, scatter diagrams, anything in quality. Please know it inside out. Don't cut any corners whatsoever. Know all your tools and techniques of risk management. Every single tool and technique, and there are tons of them. Now listen very carefully. If you do not know the difference between a risk score and expected monetary value, you might want to go look that up. If you don't know what a business risk is, if you don't know what a pure risk is, or risk triggers, watch lists, workarounds, strategies for negative risks or threats, and strategies for positive risks, which we know as opportunities, contingency, reserves, and management reserves. If you don't know those, there are lots of other terms, and we talk about this in Project Management Essentials, the book. If you don't know all these in detail, go back to the drawing board. Know all your earned value metrics. I'm talking about PV, AC, EV, EAC, BAC, VAC, TCPI, SPI. Know what cumulative SPI is, cumulative CPI, cumulative earned value. Understanding that TCPI is work remaining divided by funds remaining. Understanding all of those different formulas for the various EAC types. You might think it's not important, but hey, you don't know if they're going to give you that on the exam. So why don't you buckle up and know this stuff? Go into great detail. In fact, on our channel, we've got tons of videos on earned value. You might as well watch those and get firm in your understanding of earned value. Because it could come out on the exam, the same way some people say, oh, I didn't even get that many formula type questions, is the same way some people could say, oh, I had 3 brutal questions on TCPI or EAC. You see, you don't know. So if you really want to ace the PMP exam without knowing the passing score, you're going to have to cover all your bases. Do you understand? You cannot afford to pick and choose. It's not a buffet. If it were, everyone would do well. The PMI gave you 500 questions and they asked you to serve yourself whichever one you want put on the plate, how good it would be. That's not the case. They serve you a very stern looking meal. In fact, very miserable sometimes, or most times. So please know all of your earned value metrics. Know all your time management terms. So when we talk about critical path, don't give me the same definition that you would give me for critical path for critical chain. It's not going to cut it. When I ask you for what buffers are when we talk about the critical chain, I expect you to tell me the various types of buffers that are talked about in the critical chain definition. I expect you to really understand what the critical chain is, the resource-constrained critical path. And I expect you to know what we are doing when we talk about using the critical chain method versus the critical path method. When I talk about slack, float, lag, and so on, I expect you to know what all that means. When we talk about different relationship types between different tasks, I expect you to know. So do your homework in that regard. Know time management inside out. Not just knowing formulas, not just knowing the PERT formula and saying, oh, PERT is equal to 4 M plus P plus O divided by 6. No, that's not going to cut it. You need to know what exactly you're doing. What does the PERT formula do for you? What is it? What is the definition of it? Okay? That's what I'm asking you to know. If you don't know that, if you're not able to flip a page in the PMBOK guide and take a look at any of the ITTOs and say, I absolutely know what that thing is. I absolutely know the definition for that tool and technique. I absolutely know that variance analysis occurs 4 times in the PMBOK guide and variance and trend analysis occurs once. And this is the difference between how it applies to risk and how it applies to cost and how it applies to scope and report performance and so on. If you haven't gotten to that finesse, you are at risk. I'm just telling you, alright? I'm just trying to be honest here to help you out, because I've heard too many horror stories of people failing the exam, especially on the blogs out there. So I'm trying to help you to really fine-tune your studying. That's all. So please do yourself a favor. If you have not mastered all of the definitions, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't play Russian roulette with your $555, cause it will go and you will have to produce $275 more if you don't pass it the first time. No HR and communications. Why? Because the executing process group has processes that cover 30% of the exam. There are only 8 processes in executing, but that's 30% of your exam. And 5 of those processes are between HR and communications. 3 are in HR, 2 are in communications within the executing process group. So doesn't it make sense to absolutely know about HR, human resource management, about communication, soft skills, and so on? So read Appendix G in addition to chapters 9 and 10 in the PMBOK guide to really solidify your understanding of soft skills or interpersonal skills, which are big on the exam. Know all your scope terminology, WBS dictionary, project scope statement, and how those 3 make up the scope baseline and control accounts, and the lowest level of the WBS, the work packages and planning packages, and understanding your chart or your code of accounts, understanding what a root node is, all that good stuff. Know it. Understand that the work packages are not tasks. You break them down into tasks. Stuff like that, rolling wave planning, on and on and on, decomposition and so on. How, when you talk about the WBS work packages, how that relates to the activities, and how you use rolling wave planning to plan out activities happening far in the future, so on and so forth. Do yourself a favor, know all this stuff cold. Understand integration management and understand change management. When I talk about change management, I'm talking about changes across the project, be they changes to how you're managing the project or changes to various deliverable requirements in the project. Everything. Everything from knowing that if you're given a verbal request in the world of the PMI, that's no good. You need it in writing, a formal request. That's what I'm talking about. And then you need to know what happens from the time you get a formal request to the time you send it to the change control board. It's going to be something that happens in there where you do your analysis and send it to them for them to review. You might be in the meeting or not. All that detail is what I'm talking about. Know it cold. Know all unique ITTOs well. Really, truly well. In fact, ITTOs that appear just once, you really need to know what they are. You really need to know them well. I mean, it puzzles me when I ask some students a few simple questions, such as what is the difference between a validated deliverable, an accepted deliverable, and a deliverable, and they've got no idea. And you tell me you want to take the exam? Are you kidding? What do you think the exam is? A walk in the park? A picnic? Of course not. It's a tough exam. In fact, that's a namby-pamby question that you should know in your head. If I ask you the difference between procurement documents and a teaming agreement or a contract and you're fumbling, or I ask you the major differences between administer procurements and conduct procurements and you're mixing everything up, tells me you're not ready. You need to know this stuff inside out, and it's doable through habitual practice. If you use the tools and the materials that are out there, go to Praizion.com, get those tools, surround yourself 360. People have done it again and again and again that I get bored of talking about it because it's a no-brainer. People that get above a 75% on our mock exam, they slaughter the real deal. They slaughter the real exam. I'm yet to find anyone that's got above a 75 and hasn't destroyed the real deal. You see, and I know that it's possible, regardless the materials you use. If you put these principles to work, they will work for you. And finally, take realistic mock tests. Find your gaps, close your gaps. Get yourself really solid in this stuff, and guess what? What's the end result of everything that we've talked about? Well, the end result is success. Pass the exam and move on. You ask me, well, I had such a horrendous time getting done here that what am I moving on to? Well, you're moving on to bigger and more important things. The PMP exam is not the end-all be-all. But I'll tell you some of the advantages. What does it afford you? Well, lots of competition. You become more competitive out there. You make yourself a better project manager because you've got some refinement in your studying of the subject. A lot of project managers these days are just project managers, ad hoc ones, and they've got no definite idea as to what project management is. Well, good luck to them. For you, you're going to be more competitive. You're going to make yourself better. Everyone knows you've earned your stripes. You get to earn PDUs, professional development units, instead of contact hours that everyone gets fed up of after a while. You can help others move on to bigger things as well. Just think about that. And what are the results of this? More fulfillment in your profession, right? You build up your skills and you help your organization and change their mindset, because lots of organizations, they live in an illusionary world. They think that project management can be done by anyone. You just wake up in the morning and start running projects, and they might have a few like fluke successes, but when it really comes down to the wire, they don't have solid procedures and practices in place. They don't have solid people to back up the technologies they use. They will fall flat. I know several Fortune 500 that have taken on huge projects only to fall flat because the people at the helm were just inept project managers. And you don't want that to be your story, so why don't you learn? Why don't you really, truly learn what project management is about and take your career to a higher level? So I hope you enjoyed how to ace the PMP exam without knowing the passing score. And if all goes well, And if you do exactly what I'm advising you to do, chances are very likely you will be just like this guy in the picture, jumping for joy at his discovery that he passed the exam. Not just by getting by. We're not talking about passing the PMP exam by scraping by, but I'm talking about really acing it, really teaching it a lesson. That's the level that I anticipate for you. That's where I want you to go. Some people say it doesn't mean much. Well, maybe it doesn't, but at least you know that you put in your best. And that's what it's all about. Putting in your best and getting the best that you possibly could. I wish you success, and don't forget, visit www.praizion.com. Take care and have a great day.
Do you ever feel like you are putting in so much but are not getting anything in return? Does your team feel like it's hit a brick wall? Or maybe like Sadie and Otis here, maybe they actually look like they've hit a brick wall. Well, get yourself and them coached and trained. Learn how to explore your peak potential in your career and life. Get PMP certified as a professional project manager. The options are endless. Visit Praizion Media to learn more about various professional coaching and training programs. Go to www.praizion.com or call now 480-545-2022. Don't believe me? Well, maybe you'll believe Sadie and Otis. Come on, guys. Otis, sit. Good boy. Sadie, dance. 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 Good girl. Good girl. Otis, paw. Give me paw. Other paw. Other paw. Other paw. Good boy. Down. Good boy, Otis. See? Even brick wall dogs can learn new tricks. So go now. Call 480-545-2022 or visit PRAIZION.com. That's Praizion.com.